Well, welcome to the dog park, one of my favorite places to be, and one of my favorite places to enjoy a live. It's a lovely day, a little bit muggy, but a lot of it fun. Dogs are definitely happy with the walk, so there we go. So, title, I am right and you are wrong. That's I did that title very intentionally, because today's topic is fusion, okay? And fusion starts with identity, understanding what identity is. Now, a lot of people, they go, oh, well, identity, blah, 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 right? But what is identity? What is identity? Here's one of the things that I think is the most not talked about component of the Barbie movie. Yes, I went and saw it. Yes, I enjoyed it. Yes, I have my criticisms out of love for it because I thought it was amazing. But here's one of the things that's kind of slipped through that I spotted, and I was just like, ooh, this is great. And that is identity. Going into what is identity, and more specifically, what are values? Because without spoiling anything for those who haven't seen it, a lot of the characters have to go through and try to identify what their identity is. And they were focusing on what they do and how others perceive them, instead of focusing on what they value. So it's a very minor theme. It's something that you have to kind of look for, but it pops out. And that popped out to me big time in that movie. It's like when you identify your values and you move towards your values, you establish your identity. You actually create a stronger identity than whether you base your identity off of what you do or what you not necessarily love, but like what you're interested in, those sorts of things. Values go deeper than that. And any conversation that we have about fusion has to include conversations about values and identity. Because when somebody is fused with something, when we're entangled with it, when we're verbal fusion, cognitive fusion, there's so many different variations on it. There's so many different ways of referring to it. But when basically I say, I am, then what we're doing is we're stating with our languaging that we're fused. Now, is fusion bad? No, fusion is, right? Like, I had some lovely lemon cake with my coffee this morning, and I didn't stop and go, oh yes, I'm noticing that I'm having the sensation of this sweet and tart flavor upon my tongue. Yes. Like, I don't need to do that. Now, can I do that? Sure, why not? Like, I can do mindful eating, and I can be very thoughtful with what I'm putting in my mouth and noticing. This morning, guess what? I was on the run. I need to grab my coffee, drop my daughter off to daycare, take the mutts to the dog park because it's been rainy all week and they've been pent up, right? And so I was on the go. I was fused with moving, and so I was also fused with this is delicious, yum. Okay, go, moving on, right? You don't have to stop every single moment, but the idea is that the more we practice defusing, noticing, engaging with our experiences, not as I am and you are, but rather as I experience, you're experiencing, we're experiencing. And that's a key component to understanding fusion and defusion, because when you understand that fusion is about what we decide determines our identity, then that helps us to understand a little bit better about what's going on. And the thing is that when we're applying ACT towards others, we can't dictate to them what their identity is. Now, I always say before you start applying ACT for others, you should really apply it to yourself, right? Because this is how we make sure that we're engaging ethically, right? Or I hope it's a right. But when we start by identifying with ourselves, and then we start diving into the harder conversations. Oh God, the harder conversations. Conversations like people I disagree with. How do we talk about disagreement with other people? How do we have conversations? Let's get into the classic argument. You're wrong. You are wrong? Wait, is the person by definition wrong? Like, does that define who they are? Their wrongness? Is their very existence on this planet wrong? Oh, maybe it's not you are wrong, but rather I disagree with your idea, this concept, this thing. And then when we have our ideas challenged, we go, I am right. Wait, hold on. Is my name right? Like a little dad joke here, right? But am I right? Or do I believe that I am right? And I am really enjoying a book recommended to me by my friend Summer. I've been reading it for about 3 days now, and I am not even done, and I am loving this book. This book is probably the best book on diffusion I've ever read, and it's not even about diffusion, and it's called Think Again by Adam Grant. I'll post a shortened link in the description when I republish this for those who want to be able to find it, and I'll try to update my link tree as well. But the book is about diffusion. It's about how do we think again? How do we change our minds? How do we experience new pieces of information? And I love it. It's amazing. For those who don't know, Adam is a organizational psychologist. He focuses on data-driven decision making, and but yeah, it's definitely worth the read. It's worth the listen. And Adam reads his own audiobooks. He's very good. I don't know if you've seen any of his talks, but Adam definitely knows how to talk to an audience. He really knows how to engage with an audience, and his book engages with you, because what he does is he does what all master storytellers do. And more than anything, I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories. Stories are so valuable. So what Adam does is he tells stories and links the data to it. And that's so important, because stories are how we learn, how we connect with other people. I'll tell you right now, growing up, isolated, struggling, having a hard time connecting with other people, books were one of the ways that I was able to connect with humanity and stay connected and grounded. And that's a common report that a lot of people have. But going back to this idea of identity and fusion, if I am right, what happens when I'm wrong? If the rule that I give to myself is I am right, and then it turns out that the information that I have is incorrect, what does that mean about me? You see, I'm currently working with multiple children who our focus is ACT, ages 4 to 12. It's a pretty broad spread, and the common theme that I'm seeing cropping up is this fusion, this I am. This is who I am. And a lot of times when I see engagement that results in conflict on social media or in person, it's because the identity of the person is so thoroughly fused with what they do, or something that's arbitrary, that the result is that they're so thoroughly entangled that they don't see themselves or the people around them. They see the stories that they're telling themselves. Relational frameworks matter. My relational frameworks used to be very, very, very thoroughly, strictly rigid. And I remember my first relational framework restructuring that that has occurred to me, that stuck with me. And that was when I was 7 or 8 years old. We were sitting in front of the TV, and I saw a Toyota commercial. You are the one for me, Toyota, and the guy jumps up in the air. And my thought in my head was, that's wrong. I don't know why I came to that conclusion. We drove a Chevy Suburban. Like, maybe that was it. I don't know. Just before it, there was the Chevy commercial, like a rock. Oh, like I was a 90s kid, okay? But, like, I was so thoroughly fused with the idea. Like, I didn't even understand the differences between the vehicles at this point. It was just like, that's wrong when I saw the Toyota commercial. And then like 2 months later, my dad shows up with a little Toyota Tacoma, like one of the really early models that he bought so that he could have a low fuel consuming vehicle for his commute into Sacramento, and so he could deliver papers as a side job. And I had to recontextualize that idea. I was forced to be like, wait, is that wrong? Or is it that I just wasn't familiar with it? I didn't know it. I didn't understand it. And like this is 7 or 8 years old, and no, I was not vocalizing these things. This is me reflecting back on my experiences and those little connections that have stuck with me. And that's really what it is that we're trying to do, is we're trying to get ACT as a system, as an approach. Honestly, I don't even care if it's ACT. I just care that these ideas get out there. That people learn how to disentangle with the arbitrary I ams and instead entangle with values. Like, what are my values? So, in a couple weeks, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, so Tuesday the 22nd, and I think through to the end of September, we're going to be doing some ACT, an ACT practicum. Me and Jordan Belial, words, I can do them. We're going to be teaching ACT from the perspective of how to utilize ACT for neurodivergent learners. It is an introductory course. We are going to be talking about introductory stuff, but we're going to be trying to frame it from perspectives where we can understand a little bit better. And it's a practicum, so there's going to be recording, and we're going to be trying to use the recording, some of the recordings towards creating something that's on demand. But that recording, that on demand that we're going to produce from that is going to be a little bit different from the live practicum, and we're hoping to do more lives because we're wanting to deep dive in. We're wanting to jump in and like understand and practice and engage and answer questions and be curious and be scientists and learn how to say, I notice, I experience, I feel, instead of I am. And also help to try to establish, like, what is the I am? What about me is? What about you is? And what about us is determined by what we choose. So there's that. And then also, you may or may not have noticed that the ABA at the Alt, I'm going to be one of the speakers there, and I'm going to be teaching a CE called ACT is for assholes. That's the other thing that we're going to be doing. So ACT is for a-holes is what I'm going to be doing in October. So I definitely invite you to check out the ABA at the Alt, because like, these things matter. These ideas really help us to connect and understand what is going on. ACT has made me a better scientist. ACT has helped me to disentangle myself from what I think is and what I'm observing, and helped me to learn how to engage in perspective taking. As Sun Michaud, who I recently found out isn't a doctor, but I think he deserves a doctorate. Fantastic linguist, teaches at Harvard. If you haven't checked out his work, definitely do. Sun Michaud taught me this. Taught me something he was taught to him by his elders, which is this. What we often think we're arguing is truth is actually arguing perspective. And being radical behaviorists, being functional contextualists, context matters. Like, a lot of times truth is determined by the context. Not always, right? There's some things that are immutable truths, but like the truth of gravity acting upon me is determined by me being on a large celestial body, aka a planet or a large enough asteroid, right? That's what determines the truth of gravity. If you're out in deep space or even in orbit, then gravity doesn't affect you the same way. In fact, based off your context, it changes how things are done. Can we practice? Is it possible to hold within ourselves the idea that our ideas are not us? When I get taught something new and an idea that I had turns out to be either completely incorrect or even slightly incorrect, I get excited. I learn something new. I love learning. I love discovering. And I think that a lot of times, due to a combination of factors, from our phylogeny to our culture, to our learning history, we get stuck on this idea that when it turns out that a concept that we hold to ourselves is proven wrong, then therefore we are wrong, and we can't be wrong. I can't be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. No. And then we invalidate ourselves. We identify so thoroughly with an idea that we miss that we are still here. And yet, if we practice the art of being able to say, well, what if this idea is wrong? What if this idea is not reflective of what's actually going on? Or what if there's contexts where this idea doesn't apply? Okay. And this applies for everyone. I'm not talking to any one audience. If anybody's like, oh, you're talking to me, oh, you're calling me out. No, this is everyone. Everyone. This applies to all of us. This applies to me. We have to re-examine our biases. That's what it is. That's what biases are. They're fusion with ideas. Can we challenge our biases? Can we see ourselves as being who we are without losing our identity? Values matter. Values matter. They really do. And if we can identify our values, we can move towards our values. Then if something comes up where one of our actions turns out is not in line with our values, then we change directions. The best scientists that I have ever observed are the ones who can go, yeah, I was wrong. Those are the best scientists I know. The best people I know are the people who can, like, when we have a disagreement, if they did or said something that was incorrect or was harmful, they can come to me and they can be like, I'm sorry, I was wrong with that. We get so worried about how others are going to perceive us that we forget that the most important person that we perceives us is ourselves. And we miss out on some very important pieces of data. Anybody out there who thinks that admitting you're wrong makes you weak, guess what? The data doesn't point to that. The data doesn't point to that. Maybe there's certain groups or individuals who are fused with ideas that is weakness, but the data doesn't point to it. So, I'm going to drop that link in the bio, so that, or link in the comments. It's a shortened link, so it should be easy for you to do. I'll also put the title and author. If you do use the link, it does help me out. So I finally got it set up. I'm an Amazon affiliate, so if you purchase the audiobook or the physical book or the ebook or whatever through Amazon, if you choose to go somewhere else, please do support your local bookstores. But if you choose to go through Amazon, then I get a small percentage. It benefits me, so it's like, depending on what you buy, it's anywhere from like 10 cents to I don't even think it's $1. It's like 90 cents or something like that, depending on what you get. But like, if you use the link, great, please do. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. I'm trying to stop sinking my money constantly into and maybe start maybe breaking even with what I'm doing. But at the same time, I am trying ever so hard to make sure every information we're doing is accessible. And in those lines, if anybody is wanting to participate or attend that practicum and there's struggles financially to do so, please reach out to us at Mindful Behavior. We can figure out a payment plan. We can figure out something that'll make it accessible for you. Because we're interested in getting the information out there. The onlyest reason why we're even charging is because we have to pay for our platform, and that takes a lot of work. It does, and takes a lot of money. Oh, good Lord, it takes way too much money. But the idea is we want to make this information accessible. We want to get this out there. So please feel free to sign up. Feel free to look at some of the other offerings. We have a huge on-demand library at mindfulbehaviorllc.org. We would absolutely love to get your participation with any and all of our events, and we're hoping to try to get the word out there so that people can understand how we can improve our practice, how we can make the world better. Thank you for joining me on this lovely ramble, and just so you know, to conclude, no, I am not right, and you are not wrong. We are. We are. We experience. We do. We live. And the more firmly we understand that component of ourselves, and to learn to accept ourselves while also learning to be flexibly engaged with our environment, aka psychologically flexible, the better off things get. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend.